I think that look, you sort of mentioned before, and you don't realize how much our lives are now driven by data, and I think these big data centers that have been opened up throughout the world. You think about the big data plays at the moment, the big data centers, because it's just huge. It's continuing to grow. So the more data that files into the space, AI becomes more intelligent to a certain degree, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason these tools are for free,
Yeah,
because
correct.
they know that for them to thrive in the long term, they need to be able to get access to all this data. And that's why they're not only giving it for free, but they keep adding more functionality that you would normally, if you're running a general software as a service type business model, you would be charging people extra for those advanced features. But there's more and more coming for free. And I think when you're using the product, it is important to know that you're educating the product as well.
Yeah.
Um, and it's important to know. I know, for example, now, when I first started using ChatGPT, if I was typing some generic things like, could you help me draft a blog about Thriday? It had very minimal information on Thriday. And a lot of it was hallucinations or was making things up.
Mm.
Now, if I ask it to write a blog about Thriday, it's extremely detailed. And the reason it's so detailed is both it keeps obviously pulling and retrieving more data from the World Wide Web, but it's also all the inputs or questions or entries that all my staff and myself have made about Thriday. It's actually storing that and using that. So, for example, if we ask ChatGPT to help us write some FAQs about Thriday 3 months ago, that's being stored and it's actually being leveraged now. So if I was to go and ask something about Thriday today, it would actually draw on that information. So that's really important to note in terms of as well for how you run your business. It is important to be a little bit sensitive about what you're putting into these systems because they are actually storing that and saving that. Now, in terms of those types of things, I think that's one of the first things I would say about getting your business prepared to use AI. So using it in a safe and secure way is really important, and training your staff on how to do that. And then also, I would encourage you to think about having different sessions with your team to show off or highlight different tools. Because what I find is when staff start to see other staff leveraging tools for their particular role or particular customers that they're dealing with, it encourages the whole group
Yes.
to adopt. I also think there's sessions which you can run where you can sort of identify common processes that you have today and actually run a workshop with the team to go through potential technologies that could enhance or in some cases even replace that technology. I know within our business, we've had a number of different things that we've been able to replace or enhance just by looking at it, what's in the market. And if you're not looking, obviously you're never going to find these things.
Yep.
And then I also think that you may have an existing set of software or partners, and it's worth considering whether there's new competitors that are leveraging AI, perhaps more so than your existing software or vendor is. And again, to give an example, Thriday has some software that we use to assist with onboarding staff, making sure they've got the right contracts, making sure that it is in place. But it's still the software we were using was still very much reliant on our HR team to coordinate and double check and all of that. Now we've found another software that we believe does that in using AI in a more streamlined and more efficient way. So we've actually moved over to that. So there's massive opportunity if you're just willing to do the research, do a
Yes.
bit of trial, and obviously do it in a secure way where you educate your staff about the right practices as well.
What a great point that is. Yeah. Wow. Mate, what's the and you sort of mentioned some of the uh, sort of becoming AI ready and so on, but are there any sort of other legal implications with data privacies and these sorts of things we need to be aware of?
Absolutely. You need to, I think a lot of customers, if they haven't asked already, are wondering how you're using AI as a business. I think it's really important to be transparent about that. Um, And that could be in the form of actually, an email communication to your customers, but also just in terms of your terms and conditions when they're onboarding and things like that.
Yep.
Um, and again, within this field, that's critical because you are handling, business commercial information, and that needs to be safeguarded, and used in the right way. Now, you don't want to lose out. You don't want to be so scared of AI that you don't leverage it, but you also need to do it in a secure way. I think implementing sort of processes and policies within the business, so extending out in terms of what I just said about training your staff, is actually putting in processes. So, for example, Thriday has a business continuity plan. Thriday has a plan if there's a bug in production. We now have a plan around how we use AI. And it articulates, it's like a 10-page document. It articulates how we use it, how we make sure that it's not going to be misused, and how we ensure that the data that we're putting in into these various tools is secure and safeguarded.